Now, it's been a minute since I did a Coon Hunters Thursdays episode, but although today is Wednesday and we happen to be in the birthday period of Cancer, coming to the end of June, I was just doing some research and come across my studies, and I came across this. As y'all know who this is right here. Supreme Court Justice Clarence Thomas. We all know how we feel about him, and so on and so forth, and in the past and even as of current. But here's some news, and as y'all see on the right, there's a picture of the building of the United States Supreme Court of the United States, the highest court in the land. Okay, but now something has came across that I found real interesting, and very, very interesting. As in addition to be a person that's basically engaging to change the system of Caucasian supremacy, aka Caucasian terrorism, aka white supremacy, and replace it with a system of injustice with a system of justice. I ain't even gonna call myself an agent. No, that's too like this. More like a fighter, a warrior, to change that. And because holistically I have a love for my people. Unconditionally, holistically, I love my people, and I love my people unapologetically, no matter what. But this is something that Clarence Thomas, I believe, to me, is a story that I came across. It seemed like he is going to look like he's kind of like waking up a little bit. I'm not even going to say that, but he's getting a little bit of hint of the light of Ra, put it that way. In a recent article that just got printed today, that he recently slammed his fellow Supreme Court justices for not hearing the Second Amendment, a gun case. I say firearm case on the which is dealing with the Second Amendment. That's the amendment that all these old Caucasian gun nuts who make these making about 50,000, maybe 100,000 YouTube videos, showing off their hardware because they're lacking elsewhere per se. And it's the only part of the Constitution that a lot of those Caucasoids only know about. But me being an avid student of constitutional law, and also being part of the National Divine Movement of Moral Science, so you know what I'm saying. So the Constitution does happen to be applied to you. Now, before any of these armchair revolutionaries start coming on here talking about saying, the Constitution describes black people as being 3/5 of a human being, I'm not finna get all into that. Okay, I've said this plenty of times on my other previous videos, and I said it plenty of times on my Facebook posts, on my Instagram posts, everywhere social media, that the terms black, white, that's not a nationality, that's not race, that's status. Anyway, Clarence Thomas had basically blasted his fellow Supreme Court Justice associates for not hearing this case. Let's go ahead and pull the article up, and this was coming. They're gonna get to that out of the World Tribune, and he's saying, and I'll quote: Second Amendment, justices don't understand importance of self-defense. Now let me go and get right into it. For those of us who work in marbled halls, guarded constantly by a vigilant and dedicated police force, the guarantees of the Second Amendment might seem antiquated and superfluous. Supreme Court Justice Clarence Thomas wrote after most members of the High Court declined to hear a case challenging a California county's strict concealed carry law. But the framers made a clear choice. They reserved to all Americans the right to bear arms for self-defense. Again, let me say this one more time. They reserve to all Americans all Americans the right to bear arms for self-defense. I know the Philando Castile thing and all that. No, that situation, I'm still mad about with that shit. And to Mr. Coleon Noir, I kind of disagree with his little video rant, what he did. But I'll get into that later. And he's also continuing, I do not think we should stand idly by while a state denies its citizens that right, particularly when their very lives may depend on it. The case, which is supported by the National Rifle Association, the same one that remained silent on Philando Castile case, involves San Diego resident Edward Peruta, who challenged his county's refusal to grant him permission to carry a concealed firearm outside the home. And shout out to my friends, and shout out to my peoples out there in Cali, North and Southern Cali, man. Bay Area, LA, Frisco, everywhere, man. San Diego, all over. Now, the High Court's newest member, Justice Neil Gorsuch, who joined Thomas's statement on the court's refusal to hear the case, calling the decision by the Ninth Circuit on Peruta versus San Diego indefensible. Wow, indefensible, really? A case needed to be approved by at least 4 justices in order to get on the Supreme Court docket, which is fact. Now then, the Second Amendment's core purpose further supports the conclusion that the right to bear arms extends to public carry, which extends to public carry. Yes, it does. Even if other members of the court, what Thomas said, even if the other members of the court do not agree that the Second Amendment lightly protects a right to public carry, the time has come for the court to answer this important question definitively. In San Diego County, only those who can prove they have a regular need for self-defense against a specific threat are granted concealed carry permits. That could be anywhere or anyone. And he also stated the whole point of the sheriff's policy is to confine concealed carry license to a very narrow subset of law-abiding residents, Petula attorneys wrote. And because California law prohibits openly carrying a handgun outside the home, the result is that the typical law-abiding resident cannot bear a handgun for self-defense outside the home at all. Okay, let's talk about this. Now, I don't live in California. I live in Florida, fortunately. Where we have like over maybe 1.5, maybe 1.5 and counting million CCW holders. And as myself, as being very pro firearm, pro Constitution, and pro Constitution, which is Constitution, the greatest documentation of all times, made up of 7 articles, 10 amendments. My Moorish brothers and sisters, y'all know what I'm talking about when I spit that. But to anybody else that's clueless to the fact like this, hey, you can always go online and print the Constitution of the U.S. for yourself and see it for yourself. Read it for yourself. The Bill of Rights and so on and so forth. But this is like real interesting, and I'm going to be following more on that. But the point of the matter I want to get, like I say, I'm pro-gun, yes. I mean, shoot. Self-defense is the number one law, and self-preservation is number one law in nature. It's not a constitutional right. It's not a human right. It's a natural right for every living thing, every organism to defend themselves. Hell, a rabbit knows how to defend itself when it's being chased by a fox or a dog or a bobcat. Even a deer. So why not a law-abiding citizen, or especially somebody being of indigenous origin and being of sovereign national? you know. And this ain't one of these political pundit things about left versus right, liberal, conservative, Dem, Repubs. As far as I'm concerned, all of them in the same pot. But Clarence Thomas is like, it's kind of looked like he stopped drinking that Kool-Aid for a while and stuff, and he started to come to this common sense and stuff, because anything that Clarence Thomas was good on knowing, he knew the Constitution in and out. Just like his predecessor, one of my heroes, Thurgood Marshall, who would, if he was still been alive, he'd have said the same exact thing. For some of the justices, like, you know, Scalia don't count. I'm glad he's dead, thank God. The thing what he's saying with is like with this. Everyone has the right to go ahead and defend themselves when it come down to it. And to me, it's like this. It doesn't matter if you're rich or poor, if you're black or white. Black, white, or Latino, Asian, Pacific Islander, or so-called Native American. You know? It doesn't matter. Because at the end of the day, because California is a trip when it comes to that. Because, see, like, that's just the San Diego County. Now, if anybody that lives in San Diego County, if this is fact, you can leave a comment down in the comment section. But I just found that, like, real interesting. And for all the law-abiding citizens, like, you know, the brothers and the sisters who ain't got no felon like this, now's the time to go ahead and, you know, y'all should be like taking this to account and try to purchase you a firearm as much as possible, because the shit there is gonna get ugly. You already got some of these quote-unquote Trump pansies that's already running loose on the internet out there in the street, thinking that they could easily go ahead and put hands on people of melanated origin and think they can walk away scot-free, but it's not going to be such the case. And Clarence Thomas just reinforced that. You know, I give a salute to Clarence Thomas on that, though. I said, like, it took you long enough, but you're finally starting to come around. But let's just keep our eye on this and everything like that, because normally time when it comes down to other things, like when it comes down to our people getting gunned down in the streets like dogs and stuff by these Caucasoid terrorists, you know, he normally remains silent. He's been remaining silent for decades. Now all of a sudden he's speaking out on this. And then, like you see the case, you wonder why. But nonetheless, though, it is a sliver that he's opening a little window. Maybe it could probably open the eyes of young black men and women. Y'all need to read the Constitution of the United States. I'll leave a link in the description for y'all where you can go ahead and you can go there and you can download it for free, or you can go to Amazon, which I'll put in the link in the description, and you can get it. Just get the little pamphlet book yourself and study it. Remember, the Constitution has 7 articles, 10 amendments. They're the ones that's most important. But you got to be like in your proper status. You know, when I mean proper status, I mean claim your birthright. You know, because the term Negro, colored, black, African American don't count in a court of constitutional law. You know, read the Dred Scott case, Sanford versus Dred Scott, that will tell you. But I'm gonna save that type of that talk for another video, for another time. But here like in Florida here, you know, that's why you got, you know, which was last year we were this close to becoming an open carry state. You know, when it comes to open carry states, everybody know about only Texas, Ohio, and Michigan. But shoot, it's even certain other states that are open carry. I know Georgia, one of them, and I think North Carolina is too. Not exactly sure. I'm gonna have to go back on that and look. But this story was very interesting. This report was very interesting. But I'm gonna keep my eye on this. I'm gonna keep my eye on Clarence Thomas and see what's up with this. because he's bringing up a pretty good point, and we just need to follow up on that. With that said, I'm out. Peace and love.